A lot of people say, well, just visualize, just, or do say affirmations. Okay. So if you have a cyst and you say, I don't have a cyst, or I'm healed, or I'm clear, whatever, but your subconscious mind is still saying, oh my God, how do I get rid of this thing? And why do I have this? And blah, blah, blah. And is this serious? Right? So the affirmations are saying something, and your subconscious mind is still saying the opposite. That's why most people have a hard time healing very quickly. So in the training, the first thing is to set the intention. I want to clear whatever. The second thing is to figure out what your subconscious mind is saying that is stopping you from attaining this intention.
What if the most powerful healing tool you have is not something outside of you, but the very consciousness you are made of? In this episode, Carolyn Cory, acclaimed filmmaker, author, and trailblazer in consciousness science, joins us to reveal something truly revolutionary. Your intention can rewire DNA, shift physical matter, and transform your life from the inside out. From childhood encounters with light beings to conducting mind-blowing scientific experiments, measurably altering the pH of water and the conductivity of DNA, and even showcasing telekinesis, Carolyn brings the mystical into the measurable. With breathtaking clarity, she shows us how consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but the building block of reality itself. Together, we explore how old trauma gets stored in your cells like corrupted software, and how through frequency, intention, and alignment, you can clear it for good. So, if you are ready to stop healing in fragments and start living in full spectrum alignment, body, mind, and soul, this episode is your portal. Enjoy. Well, hello, beautiful souls, and welcome again to an amazing, amazing guest we have for you today, the beautiful Caroline Cory. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Catherine. It's
I'm
awesome.
super excited to having you.
Yeah, we've been trying to connect for a little bit, so finally here we are.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the way that we love to start the show, Caroline, is we always love to ask our guests, what inspired you to do what you do today?
What inspired me is really my personal experience. I started out at a very young age. I was 5 years old, and I had an experience. I was just there, and all of a sudden, I saw these beings, this light just showed up in the room, and I was literally merged with that energy, and all kinds of things started to happen. Um, I could hear them, see them, sense them. And of course, I kind of saw that they were part of me, I'm part of them, that whole thing. And I remember very well. That's why I can talk about this experience in detail, because I literally remember the dress that I was wearing. It's like 5 years old. And so the most important thing that happened was this connection to this energy. And it kind of locked in my consciousness, and I think in my physical brain as well. Um, and what they said was, if you want to have this experience, we're connected, we can communicate, the rest of your life. But if you want to have this experience, notice what your brain is doing right now, and do it again and do it again. So, I'm 5 years old, right? So I'm like, what's my brain doing? Okay, it's doing whatever it's doing. I want this. I want this. I kept saying, that's what I want. And they basically left. So actually, I realized, of course, years later, they were just telling me how to intend, how to ask and intend for exactly what you want. Because later on, I could just go back to this point, to that signature that locked into my consciousness and just ask for it and intend. And so this became kind of my internal understanding of the world beyond the physical. Of course, I realized what we see is not all that is, what we. So as I grew up, these experiences continued, and um, I would understand more and more. And by the time I got to college, I thought maybe I should study psychology. Like maybe there's something wrong with me, like maybe my brain is malfunctioning or something. And so I studied psychology. And of course, by the time I got to graduate school, I'm like, of course, everything's fine. I could see things and understand things beyond psychology. You know what I mean? It was just a small piece. And I realized that what I was tapping into or understanding or experiencing was consciousness. It was all consciousness. And so that's when I realized that's what I need to do. I need to understand, I need to figure it out. And that's my work. And so I started to, look around. Anybody's talking about it was like nothing clicked. So I put myself in this very rigorous training, like myself. I would sit for hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how you're supposed to meditate. Because, there's transcendental meditation and this and this and that. The mindful thing is more recent, but at the time. So, so I was like, okay, so when you do it this way, like, where do you go? Like, what happens? Like, is your brain doing something? Is your body doing something? Is your energy field doing something? So I would sit for hours and hours and trying to discern what was my consciousness doing to have that experience. So basically, I was exploring the mechanics of consciousness and frequencies. What frequency does what, why does it do it, da, 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 and the interaction between the two. And so, long story short, fast forward after, you know, I think it was a year and a half, every day, I ended up, figuring out a lot of things. I came up with methodologies for specific types of meditation that do specific things, um, specific types of healing, and guidance. Like, okay, I realized that that aspect of my being, the universal aspect, which everybody has, by the way, um, knows everything, can do everything, is locked, is tapped into everything. So that's the aspect of you that needs to be brought through to express. So I felt like I was becoming a bit of a scientist because I don't want to just go out and tell people, oh, it's this and that. I want to, first of all, let them experience what the energy is, what the frequency does, and figure out so that they can figure out how to do it again. It's a lot more empowering. So that's kind of how I got into this whole world. Um, I can keep going.
Oh
um,
no, keep going.
yeah, and so of course, so I started teaching, those methodologies, and I had quite a lot of students who eventually learned how to do all this, and then we would have incredible results. The thing is validation. Like, how do you know that when you sense something or think that, you see something, because I can literally see the energy. How do I know I didn't make it up? How do I know it's not my own stuff? How do I know it's my preconceived idea about the person or whatever? So I wanted to, you know what I mean? I really wanted to figure out ways to be as, I want to say clean or pure, you know what I mean, as possible in the work. And so we would do this with students over and over and over, and we would have incredible results. Like people in the class, they had a cyst or whatever. The next day it was gone. They would do tests and things like that. They would have, I don't know, traumas or um, phobias for years. And then we would do this work and it would just be gone. Cigarette smoking. I remember very well this girl in the conference. She was been smoking for like 10 years or something, like 2 packs a day or something. And then we would do this work, and then I literally remember she went outside on the break to take a cigarette and she started coughing, and she got nauseous, and since that time she couldn't smoke. She never smoked again, with no side effects. She was perfectly healthy, cleared her. So because we had those amazing experiences, I was like, this is some real stuff. We need to be sharing this with the world. Like, it's not woo-woo stuff. This is not, yeah, I mean, it's not new age, whatever. So I started working with scientists, and I said, okay, look, how is it possible that I can, think of this and it happens? So we would do experiments. If you saw the movie Superhuman, you saw some of the experiments. For example, the pH in water. So we would take water, we would take DNA, and then we would focus on an intention. Can I change the pH, or can I change the electrical conductivity, whatever? And then it would work over and over and over. When you do it scientifically, it's like you create a baseline. I mean, it's scientifically done. And then we were getting this data. Like, this was measurable stuff. So that's what inspired me to start making the films about that. I had a film background, so that was helpful. Um, but in terms of what inspires me to do what I do in general, it's just my own personal story and my own personal journey. I'm gonna stop now.
Thank you so much. The work that you do, from my understanding, from what you were saying, the people that have made these miraculous changes within them was based on the intention part. Is that correct? So intending to remove the cyst or intending to stop smoking.
Yes, and so that's only one part of it. The intention was the first thing, because you see, for example, as an example, a lot of people say, well, just visualize, just, or do say affirmations. Okay, so if you have a cyst and you say, I don't have a cyst, or I'm healed, or I'm clear, whatever, but your subconscious mind is still saying, oh my God, how do I get rid of this thing? And why do I have this? And blah, blah, blah. And is this serious? Right? So the affirmations are saying something, and your subconscious mind is still saying the opposite. That's why most people have a hard time healing very quickly. And so in the training, the first thing is to set the intention. I want to clear whatever. The second thing is to figure out what your subconscious mind is saying that is stopping you from attaining this intention. So, and then take that out, because you can say all the affirmations you want, but if the other information is still in your consciousness, it still doesn't work. So that's the second step. I would help people figure out how to tap into the subconscious, take that stuff out, and then put in the energy that is required, the information or energy that is required to heal. So it's a little bit more,
Yeah. Yeah, because I
methodical.
do agree with what you're saying. Obviously, if you are uh like you're saying, setting in an intention or an affirmation, but subconsciously you're still hanging on to the emotional trauma of what actually triggered the cyst, let's
Yeah,
say, um,
exactly.
then it is. So it's really then tapping into the subconscious mind, finding out what that belief system is, or the pattern, or the program, for you to change that, for then to remove it instantly in a day. It can happen like that.
Yeah, well, okay. So it depends on the momentum. So if somebody has created a momentum on this, telling your subconscious mind, I'm a failure, I'm broken, I'm never going to heal, other people can heal, blah, blah, blah. So it's a momentum. If you've been telling yourself that for 20 years, or like most people, most of their life, and then you come in and you clear that, it depends on the momentum you have also accumulated, in the positive sense. You know what I mean? It's really all energy. So the momentum of the subconscious and the momentum of the conscious or the superconscious, the one that's telling you this is the intent. I want to heal. I want to heal. So if they're almost equal, plus or minus, because the intention of the momentum of the powerful positive intention, especially when you bring in the energy that's healing, which is source energy, which is that's a whole different conversation. It's much stronger. Like even if the subconscious is ahead, which it is usually, you can still jump ahead and then boom, clear. But if the subconscious, is like way, way, like, it's been setting in your mind for a very, very long time. It's going to take maybe not one time, maybe two, three times, but still pretty quickly because of the energy you're working with.
That's fascinating. So obviously the superconscious overpowers the subconscious.
Yes, technically, like I said, yes, technically, you like that's why you can have instant. That's why some people can get rid of an addiction or a phobia instantaneously. Even allergies. I remember this person told me, I haven't been able to eat tomatoes like my entire life, and now I can. Like, how is that possible? So, but to say that every single person is going to do it instantly, no. Some people are going to take a few more until the subconscious weakens, because you keep the part of the work is you keep taking out the stuff that's in there. You can't just keep saying yes, 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 I'm healed, I'm rich, I'm whatever, So the taking out is also very important.
So it's a letting. So it's almost like a letting go process. The subconscious part is you're letting go of whatever the
Yes.
stories are, or the patterns or the programs within the subconscious, to allow the superconscious to shift and change and formulate something completely different.
Exactly.
So what is the true nature of human consciousness, and how does it shape our physical reality?
Ooh, that's a huge question. I love you, Catherine. How much time you got?
As
Okay,
long
well,
as you like.
yeah. Okay, well, let's start with what is consciousness. So, like a lot of people, especially the, scientists or whatever, they call the mainstream, they think consciousness means you are conscious, like you're aware, therefore that's consciousness. To me, that's not what it is at all. To me, consciousness is an energy or a substance. Let's call it a substance. It's a fundamental substance. So, fundamental means it's like at the base of everything. It's before anything. If there's a before and after, it's before anything that can exist. So, here you have pure consciousness. From this pure energy can emerge different types of consciousness. So, an intelligent being, animals, plant life, stars, planets, right? So, you have all these different aspects or different creations, let's say, of this fundamental substance. So, up here, because you're very unique, the intelligent being is, it's different than the animal, different than the plant, not quite, but there's similarities. And so, but up here, when we look at each other, so to speak, we appear separate because, well, I'm here and the plant is there. I'm not the plant is not me. You know what I mean? But fundamentally, we all emerge from the same fabric. So that's the reason why consciousness is fundamental and it's universal. And that's how we are literally connected. Whether we like it or not, we look at each other here. Oh, you're different. I'm here. I'm Australian. It's we are just another aspect of the same thing. And so the idea is to figure out, okay, once we're up here, how do we, that's why telepathy works, because fundamentally at the bottom, you and I are the same. Does that make sense?
100%.
So telepathy works, remote viewing works, everything starts to make sense when you think of consciousness in that sense. So then, what was the question again? was, how, oh, you muted.
Sorry, what I was curious about was what is the true nature of human consciousness and how does it shape our physical reality? So
How
I
does it
understand
shape
what you're
us?
saying is that oneness, that we are all part of that consciousness, that vibrational frequency. Would that be a
Yeah,
vibrational frequency?
it's more complex than that, but yeah, let's say it's a range of frequencies. Yeah,
Mm. And therefore,
yeah.
then how does that shape our reality? Because I
Okay.
know for us, where I'm understanding what you're saying, there's plant, there's animals, there's humans, there's different, but we all come from the same source.
Yes,
So then how do we actually
exactly.
shape our reality?
So the way you create your reality. So have you heard of the double slit experiment?
Yes.
Yes. So this means that the light photons that are being projected technically do not appear until you are looking at them as an observer. So technically, if you extrapolate from there, everything is made of light, actually. And we see through light. We experience through light. Light is a conductor, but it's all a conductor of information. If there's no light, speaking of the blindfold, if there's no light, you don't see, right? And so the fact that you are seeing everything through light and everything is light, then when you are not looking technically, these things don't stop existing, but they stop existing for you. So this means that your personal individual reality is being created as you observe the rest of the universe. And so that's an extremely powerful thing to think about because this means that at any moment in time, the universe is kind of neutral. It's telling you it could be this or it could be this. And it's up to you, the observer, to interpret or to have the experience of the good, the bad, the negative, the depressing, the anxious, the sick, it's so on and so forth. So if we understand the part of that you are playing in shaping your reality, instead of saying it's out there, therefore that's what it is, then you can every day, speaking of intention, set your intention that everything that I'm going to focus on is going to bring me joy. Everything that I'm going to focus on is going to expand me. Everything that I'm going to focus on is going to do this and that. It sounds very simple, but you'd be amazed how many people start off the day. Maybe they do a quick meditation or something, but it's not that of a specific intention. And when you do, you literally manifest that. Have you experienced that before?
Yeah, absolutely. I do daily what kind of day I'm going to have. So it's setting an intention because I think
Yeah.
that that's where the free will comes into it. We have a choice whether we're going to have a good or a bad day. But once again, that goes back to what you were saying that it's the meaning we give it, right? As the observer, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or any different, it just is. So I think that because there's always, I think that, it's funny, we were having this conversation last night with my son when we were talking about there's this split that takes place because we judge whether it's like, good or bad or whether it's right or wrong. And when we understand that there is always going to be a dichotomy at play, like knowing there's a night and day, but we don't react to it.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, absolutely. When I set my intention for the day that I'm going to achieve this, I do. But that's because that sets it's almost like it's setting a map for my mind to focus on that for that one day. If I just get up out of bed and not set an intention, I notice the difference. I'm all over the place.
Exactly, exactly. It's so simple. And it's like, why aren't we teaching our children? There's such a simple thing. If we were taught in school, you know, I mean, as kids, to grow up with that understanding, it's so much more empowering instead of like, you grow up, oh, he's bullying me and the teacher's this, and I have so much homework, like no sense of empowered creation. So I think this would be a totally different world. So,
100%, 100%. And that leans into the Superhuman movie that we were talking about with the children with the blindfold. So is this linked into what you were saying that when they're actually blindfolded, they are not being distracted by the light or external influenced by whatever's around them? I'd love to hear, how do they do that? And for our
yeah.
audience, I highly recommend go and check it out. It will blow your mind.
Yeah, so what happened was when I first came across that information, I'm a filmmaker, but I understand like the phenomenon that that's possible. But I also saw some, I want to call them fake stuff, so I wanted to see for myself how it's done, how other people are doing it, and just make sure it's real. You know what I mean? So I investigated a few schools. I think the first one is in the UK. It has to be my favorite too. It's Nicola Farmer. I hope she's still doing it if anybody's listening. And I went myself and I saw the kids. And so I realized, just fast forward a little bit, that every school had a different technique. And yet the result was the same, which is fascinating because this tells you our consciousness is unique. It's not like you're not a cookie cutter. Even when we, for example, get sick, for example, I don't want to focus on that right now, but I'm just saying, like, still each body responds to whatever the flu or whatever the cold in a different way. So we can't say, and I'm going to heal differently than you or somebody else. So I love the fact that it was different techniques and each one worked with the same result. So the first one was in the UK, and these kids, I think they were between 5 and 13, I want to say, and they blew my mind. I mean, and of course, needless to say, for those who are listening or are skeptical, whatever, I mean, the mask is 100% blackout. Like you see nothing. And and I was there, so they couldn't have cheated or anything. And so I would write something on a piece of paper, or I had an image or something, and they had no idea what I was going to write or what I was going to show them, and they would see it. They would play ball, they would play ping pong. I mean, like that's precision. So, or ride a bike. Now think about this. Let's say you're blindfolded. Even if there's a little bit of like you're still pretty blindfolded. I mean, for you to skate and ride a bike. It's pretty insane. So anyway, in this case, I remember the teacher, she was basically telling them to, in a nutshell, I mean, to visualize light coming in through the mask. So the reason why we don't see is because there's no light. But if you imagine that you have light in the mask, then I mean, then they start literally to see. So I remember her mentioning that. And something very interesting happens. That's pretty universal. The peripheral vision comes on first for some reason. So sometimes you would see them turn this way or this way, and they were able to see better from the peripheral vision, and eventually they would see. And so that's one technique. Another technique was in another school where it was a little bit like remote viewing. You were taught or told or imagine or intend that you are outside your body, basically, or that your consciousness is capable, is not just contained within the body. So if my consciousness is outside, even if I'm blindfolded, I can tap into that part of my consciousness and see what's going on. There is another school that one too is pretty incredible in Utah, and these people work a lot with vibration, which is fascinating. So they train your body to be so sensitive to vibration that just by sensing an object, for example, or even a word or anything, you train yourself to be so sensitive that you start to discern the shape, the color, whatever it is, to a point where you recognize, okay, that's a number. Okay, that's a four. Okay, that's a little boy. That's whatever. So, and these kids too were absolutely mind blowing. It's all in the film. There's a lady in Germany also who trains with those techniques, not just sensing, but the light. So that's kind of was so incredibly interesting to witness that firsthand and see that it's real. And what does that tell you? It tells you, it's your brain that's the occipital lobe and that's allowing you to see, right? That's the functioning of the brain. But if you are intending to see regardless of light, it means that your consciousness is bypassing or is basically bigger or supersedes the functioning of your brain. I mean, that's crazy. So that's why the film was very successful, actually. It still is. I think everybody should watch that film.
100%. I mean, for me, it's when I watch it, I was like, how do they do it? But for what you're explaining, it's the expansion of the consciousness that we're tapping into to be able to see the words. Like literally, they were reading a book, like the words, and like for me, and the words were quite small, and I was thinking that is outrageous. But at the
Yes.
same time, it really does make you think that we are not using our full potential.
Exactly, exactly. That's the reason why I put it in the film, and it was very, very powerful. And also, I taught the class myself because I did some work with blindfold, but not necessarily to make people read or whatever. And so I added a few things, which is kind of more my thing, which is the releasing the subconscious. So you prepare yourself by releasing the information that's blocking you or whatever, especially for adults. It's harder for adults to do that. And so, but the kids, it's incredible. And I did it online. Usually you do it in person. The kids, literally after the first class online, I would hold up a colored paper and they would see the color. And after the first, maybe the second lesson, usually the first, which is amazing. Then they start to see more and recognize more. And then they work with their parents to continue the training. With adults, it takes a little bit longer, but I think even from the second class, most people would see the color correctly. So it's mind blowing. And if you can do this to make your brain basically see, regardless of light, then you can make it do anything. You can make it, I don't know, change the chemistry to whatever problem. Does that make sense? And
Absolutely.
so very empowering.
So how do we? So I know there's obviously a step by step process you take people through, and obviously, well, I'm guessing it's taking the adults a lot longer because of obviously we've got a lot more baggage. Let's call it
Yes.
baggage, right, from lifetime trauma or whatever that may be. But there is a way, and it sounds like a really fast, effective way to bypass the trauma through the subconscious.
Yes,
So that's the
exactly.
trick.
Well, the trauma is in the subconscious. If you are conscious of your trauma, then you wouldn't have the trauma. Or even if you are, you still have to take it out. Like I have a lot of people who come to me who've been doing psychotherapy for years, like 10 years, 20 years. And then, so the first thing I see is the thing they've been working on. And I'm like, so like what what have you been doing kind of? And this is no criticism. It's just observation and it's just to show the difference. So what happens is that when you are aware, that's what psychotherapy helps you do. You become aware. Okay, when I was 7, I was molested or whatever by my uncle or whatever, it's horrible trauma, right? Or physically abused or whatever. Okay, so you become aware, and by talking about it, you are starting to heal it or something. And you come to terms with it. There's forgiveness, there's all that, those techniques or what have you. Okay, but it's still not gone. The idea of becoming conscious of a trauma doesn't mean it's gone. You have to realize that your thoughts are a form of energy. It's energy. And so Einstein even said, all energy, everything is energy. And once the energy is created, it cannot be destroyed. It's just there. So the idea is that it can be transmuted. You can change it. Sorry. You can adjust it, but you cannot pretend it's not there because you've already created it. So when you grow up with thoughts and feelings, which is the same thing, feelings, the frequency of sadness, disappointment, abandonment, all of that, and the thoughts at the same time, all of these frequencies are information. Information. Where do they go? You're thinking you're by yourself in the room as a kid and you're thinking these thoughts. You're thinking, dad left or my parents divorced, it's my fault, I'm guilty, blah, blah, blah. There's nobody there listening to you, but this information is staying there. Once created, cannot be destroyed, and it's going in your cells, your physical cells. That's what I call the cellular memory. And so the cells, when you're born, you weren't born thinking you're a failure. You were born thinking, oh, here I am. I want love. I want food. I want to thrive. That's what you are, right? What is the point where you started to say, yes, I am, love and I want love or whatever, and I'm a failure? That's the huge drastic shift. You've done that because you've had an experience over and over and over that your dad is, drinking and he's leaving the home and the mom is sad and it's probably your fault and boom, boom, boom. And that's the new belief system. So when you start having these thoughts and emotions, the information is stored in your cells. And everybody has, like I said, is unique, different weaknesses. Some people, it's the digestive system. Some people, it's the cardiovascular, so whatever. And then by the time you're 18, you're a mess because you've, and it's usually the system in your body that, your uniqueness or genetics or what have you, even though I don't believe totally in genetics, but is stored. And then your cells go, Okay, you want me to be a failure? I'm going to be a failure. It's like you keep repeating these things and the patterns. And so that's the reason why you have to get rid of the information that you put in yourself.
So it's even deeper than the subconscious. You're talking about cellular memory. And so how does that work when, and this is just from my understanding, there's times where we will, or our brain will repress certain events as a way, as a coping mechanism for us to move forward. And sometimes we're not even aware of that this information resides within us until we do hypnotherapy or hypnosis or even a visualization. Uh, but to go to the cellular level, is that bypassing the subconscious, or is that a different technique altogether?
It's actually the same thing. The cellular memory is the result of the subconscious. The subconscious is the one that's the part of your mind that's saying, "Oh, see, my dad is drunk again. Oh, my dad is leaving home. Therefore, I'm a failure or I'm abandoned." That's the subconscious mind. That's what we call it mind, that's creating the thought, and the thought is poured, is embedded in the cells. So it's a cellular memory. So when you're working to undo all this, and then you also ask the question, how do I know that it's there? The way you know is when you're stuck in life. For example, I don't seem to attract a healthy relationship or abundance. Why? I've tried everything. I've taken this course, blah blah blah. I still cannot attract abundance. So you're stuck. So you kind of, that's your symptom, that's it. Like something is wrong because clearly, I keep attracting the wrong guy, or I try, or whatever, right? So that's how you know. So, and then you're tired of being this way and you seek help. And this is where you have to backtrack. Okay, today you have a hard time attracting the right guy, but what's behind it, and what's behind it, and what's behind it? And where did you first start thinking that you are not worthy of being loved? And that could be at age 3, could be at age 7 when the dad left home or the mom did this or that. Or sometimes as you are born. I mean, you can go back as far as even, of course, past lives, but also, yeah, I mean, you can keep going and going until you find the root cause. When you find the root cause and you take that out, then it's like a domino effect. Then this whole pattern that you've been creating starts to collapse.
I love that. I mean, it's very similar. We have a coaching academy and we do the same thing, that it's not about the story, it's not about the event, it's what's driving the narrative, getting to the
Yes.
root cause and understanding. And once you understand that, understanding that it has a purpose, we gave birth to it, and that it also is, there's a reason, there's a gain for us for hanging on to it. We might be getting more attention or more connection or more help, so there's, when we really start unpacking them, and I'm not saying that this is the way that you do it, because it sounds more scientific, but it does get to the point where people do let go and have this real epiphany of, wow, I never ever thought about this purpose when I was 5, because somebody said that to me, that would be driving this behavior now as an adult.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, that's the first step to recognize, which is a huge step, but then you have to take it out. And that's the technique as well, to deprogram and reprogram. Tell yourself, it's really, you hear that a lot. It's more undoing rather than doing. So, but you have to nail the exact belief system. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love, or whatever that is, and take it out, because the way you put it in is through thought. The way you take it out is through thought, intention, but also there's different techniques, through light, through sound, through geometry, time suspension. There's different techniques.
Wow, sounds really fascinating. Because when you say take it out, I'm thinking, well, it must be a letting go process. And then reprogramming would be the affirmations or the intentions that you speak about.
Yeah.
But there's obviously different dimensions to it because consciousness is so, I mean, it's light, vibrational frequency, it's all of the geometry, all the things that you speak about. So how long does it take? If somebody, because I'm sure our audience are watching or listening to this and going, okay, I want to do some work with Carolyn. How long does it take? Does it take a day? Does it take 2 days? What have been some of those mind blowing experiences you've seen with your own eyes?
Yeah, so like I said, it's going to depend on the momentum and how strongly you are holding on, so usually people really, once you go through the work, the meditation or whatever, like it's a guided thing, and then you undo, 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 undo. So but it depends on how long you've been doing this. And also what happens is that it's very layered, especially, for example, I see a lot, unfortunately, of sexual abuse as children. Believe it or not, it's so much more common than we think, which blows my mind. And those types of traumas are so profound because they touch you um, at a core level of your real, like who you really are as an identity. It's almost like you lose your identity. It's very, very profound. So for cases like that, it's going to take a little bit longer, So, and when I say longer, maybe 6 sessions or so, I'm not talking years of psychotherapy. No, that doesn't. Um, but because this work gets you to go directly to the root cause, recognize and discern all the different aspects that contributed to it, it's pretty fast. Like you'll start feeling relief right away. Like basically you can take out like 10 years at a time, like in one chunk, in one session, for example. But for people who have done some work and at least they're aware that they're stuck a little bit here, whatever, it could be one session. So that's what I'm saying. So it depends. It depends on the person. Regardless, is much, much, much faster. And it's more precise and it's more, yeah, it's more precise than, different types of therapy.
So then as we're doing this deep work ourselves, how does that impact the collective consciousness? Because when we're talking about consciousness, we're all one, right? So we're talking about we're doing this work. So then how are we then impacting? Because, I'm sure everyone, we talk about there's a shift in consciousness that's taking place. There's an awakening. There's an expansion that's taking place. Is that because we're doing a lot of that inner work and the deep work that's then affecting the collective?
I love your questions. So you come in already with what I call a prenatal agreement. It's not random, like, hey, I'm just going to show up on planet Earth. And it's not random. Everything is extremely precise. Why? Because creation is purposeful. Things aren't created. Like, look in your body. Every little cell has a reason for being there, has a purpose. Everything is purposeful. And so before you come in, you already have a purpose, and that purpose is to evolve your consciousness individually and contribute to the collective, which you have to because at the core, you're connected. And so, therefore, as you come in and you're stuck with all your stuff, you're also contributing in that way. But if you stay there, then you kind of are also affecting the collective in, thinking, okay, I'm stuck, I'm a failure, I'm this and that, which, by the way, it's very much present on this planet, as you know, right? And so as you undo and unfold and work on yourself, you are evolving your own consciousness and affecting the collective. Now, how much are you affecting the collective if you want to go there? That's a whole beautiful question. The more you clear your stuff, you return to your original essence. Your original essence is pure consciousness. There is no such a thing as I'm a failure, I'm abandoned. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's just pure. You're pure love, pure light, right? And so the more you undo, the more you have space, let's say, right? So you're now at 50%, let's say, of clear and 50% of it's okay. So that 50% of clarity, let's say, allows you to impact positively, let's say, I don't know, maybe your neighborhood, your friends, or whatever, right? The people who come in contact. Then you're at 60% of clarity. Now you can sit in your room and maybe merge with the entire, I don't know, city, state. Does that make sense? And then you are at 70%, then you're 80%, you're at 90%. I mean, nobody's at 100, let's face it, but you are. So that the more you clear, the more you return to your original universal consciousness, pure self, the more you can affect. That's why I could be sitting right here in my living room and doing one meditation and affect the consciousness of 7 billion people.
That's
Make
crazy.
sense?
Yes.
That's the work, and that's the ultimate purpose.
So then how does it work? Because I mean, this is that conversation that we were talking about that I was having last night with my son, because there's, so much, and let's, once again, we're going to be judging it. There's so much shadow, let's say darkness that's been present, right? And I always go,
Yeah.
okay, well, if our external environment is a reflection of our internal environment, then we still need to do a lot of that work. And as we're doing that work, because the more light, this is only my understanding, by the way, Carol, and I don't know that for a fact, but the more light that we bring in, the more shadow will be expressed until, like you said, once we get to that 100%, which we're pure consciousness, there is no shadow or dark, right? So I feel like we're going through that. It's almost like that saying, it's got to get worse before it gets better. What are your thoughts about that with the light and the shadow aspects?
Yeah. Yes and no. So it depends on your intention and who you are as a being and how you manage your energy and how you work with energy and what you understand about energy. I mean, it's a lot. But for example, I am choosing to not experience the darkness. I don't want to experience, there's a whole philosophy behind this. You have to experience the darkness in order to get to the light. I do not agree. I believe the darkness is a contrast. Like you're saying, you're judging. I call it discerning. So, people have like, we have to let go of this, like, oh, I'm being judgmental. No, I just don't like spinach. I don't want to eat spinach right now. I'm going to have tomato or whatever. Am I judging? I'm just discerning what's aligned for me. So we have to kind of give ourselves a break, and just say, we're here to experience and discern contrast. So for me, I don't buy into the philosophy that there's evil so that we find the light. No, it's all about free will. And some people have chosen to do things that are in contrast with the universal order. The universal order is based on principles: love, truth, beauty, goodness. How do we know this? Because the universe is thriving. The universe is expanding. It's like you continue to expand. You don't have self-destruction. um, Humans can create self-destructions because on a local level, it's their free will to experience how to self-destruct. That's a choice. I don't need to go through that experience to find who I really am. I can have this experience maybe by coming in contact with it, seeing it on the news, watching a movie that portrays serial killers or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I can always say I'm an observer. I'm choosing not to participate. That's not how it's going to help me to do my work. Because the more you focus on that vibration, the more that's where you're vibrating. You see?
100%.
So you watch the news, you watch the movie, okay, so you actually can feel like you're in this place. And you say, okay, got it, thank you. You'll find your way. And then you focus on your alignment. Some people think that that's selfish. But that's the exact opposite. Remember how I was saying the superconscious is much more powerful if you can maintain that frequency of pure light, pure love, pure whatever. That's how you're going to help others to by entrainment. You're going to bring others to your, you know what I mean? You don't have to lower yourself. You can go to that vibration to understand like where they're going through or how they got there and how it's possible. Like when I first started working with people and I would see like attachments, like I was like, what? Did I just see this? Like, how is this possible? Like I would see things, so there's some horrific stuff there. But the more I hang out there, I can't do my work. You see what I mean? So,
100%.
so I notice so that's why it hasn't it's your intention and understanding what you are here to do.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said because we're truth, light, love. And when we're not in alignment with love, truth, and light, we're experiencing the contrast of that. And that's
Yeah.
what I see the shadow aspects is because when we're not standing in our light and our truth, and that I always use that using the external world as a reflection, as a mirror, as to what am I thinking, what am I feeling, what am I projecting. But even as a collective, I think we're at that space. Well, I think in that space and time, and yeah, and I don't think that you need to go through the dark to see the light. But there is one question that came to mind, Caroline, as you were speaking. Then, if everything is purposeful, and we've come here to experience and expand, therefore the choices in our life. So let's say a soul has come here to experience this life, whether it was any form of trauma, it's because we selected that as that consciousness to experience, to expand in this now moment. Is that correct?
Yes. So remember how I said before coming in, you have a prenatal contract. The contract is with yourself and with the collective. I mean, that's the purpose, right? But what is the contract with myself? This has a lot to do with your lineage, with your history, what you've done in the past. Now, again, now we're bringing the concept of reincarnation and karma. And again, I don't believe there's a whole philosophy that karma is like punishment. Like if you were bad in a past life, you're gonna come back as a dog or something. I don't agree. First of all, you don't cross over. But what karma for me, it's just unfinished business. That's all. So you come in to bring your pure universal consciousness through the human aspect. That's how you're gonna grow. You come in, let's say you're a Pleiadian or something, I don't know, from another. So you come in as a Palladium, now you're a half because you have to appear as a human, speak like a human, or what have you, right? But you're going to expand because of all these experiences that you set yourself up for, right? And so, but somewhere along the way, and let's say in this time is for me to master abundance, right? So I'm going to be born in a poor family and I'm going to not have money, whatever. But at one point, I don't have money for food. So what do? I choose to steal, for example. And then, well, nobody saw it this time, then maybe I could do it again. So next time I'll steal some more. And maybe next time might as well steal the money instead of stealing the food. You know what I mean? And then, well, if I'm stealing money, then I'm getting into the wrong energy or whatever. Then I meet other people. They're like, well, if you're going to steal, you can also sell, make money that way. How about selling drugs? Do you see where this is going? And so on and so forth. Before you know it, you came in to master abundance, and all of a sudden you're on this other path that takes you through years and years and years of drugs or alcohol or what have you, right? And then by the time you're 60, you're like, wait, ooh, ouch. I didn't do anything of the stuff I said I was going to do. I didn't evolve my consciousness. I didn't contribute to the collective. If anything, I added more mess or whatever. And so then, but now you're about to finish this lifetime, you see? So when you exit, it's all you. It's all you. You return to you. And now the starting point is a little bit off. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't go back. You have to clear your consciousness to evolve because that was your intention. And that's what karma is. Whatever you didn't do gets added. And now you have to, does that make sense? And
Yes.
so yeah, so that's why I think I don't know what the question was, to be honest, but oh, you were saying
I, I
about
was I was just talking about when we like you were talking about the prenatal contract. We've
yeah,
come here to
yeah,
experience and expand whatever that is
yeah,
without judgment of whatever that may
yeah,
be. Like you said,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
I've come here to uh, uh, experience abundance. But how you go about it in your lifetime is
free will.
yeah, free will. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
exactly. And so that's the idea. The faster we realize that we have an issue in order for it to clear. But how do you want to clear it? You know, do you want to just do work on yourself? Do you want to try to do meditation to see what you're brought with you? Why did I choose this parent? Why did I choose to be born in, I don't know, India or something, or Africa in a poor family? Or why did I choose to, whatever? And so that's the work. That's is the work to undo, to master, to be okay with your situation and see how you can master it by helping yourself, evolving others. And that becomes a beautiful thing. And you go faster to the straight line, to the to the finish line. And then you're
Mm.
done. You don't have to come back and do all this all over again.
So I know our audience is sitting there going, okay, so what's the trick here? So it's obviously doing an online program with you over a period of time. What's the program? Maybe talk a little bit more about the offerings that you have available.
Yeah, so right now I'm not doing one-on-one because I have a lot to do. I just finished a book. I'm in the middle of two movies and I'm teaching I have a workshop actually coming up at the end of March, March 28th. Of course, that's in the United States if anybody's interested. But I've done so much online stuff that I have classes that are already packaged, teaching you all this. So there's one series, the first series that I recommend that people do is the guidance series, because the guidance series is going to be the base for everything else and helps you become very discerning. How do I know I didn't project? How do I know I saw the right thing? How do I know the guides are telling me this? I didn't make it up. So all of this, the guidance series is great to start with. Then I have the healers program. That's people who are interested in healing for self-healing or healing others. And then I have the creative formula. I absolutely love this class, the creative formula, because you start with where you're stuck and you kind of have to figure out through this formula how to get to where you want. So this is a great class as well.
Thank you so very much. And so the other thing too, because I know you've done already 3 movies and you're doing another 2. So you've worked also through my research with a lot of scientists. What was the
Yes.
most like outstanding or the most mind blowing information you came across?
There's a few things, but the first one that comes to mind is actually my very first experiment, which also blew his mind. It was an experiment on the DNA. And basically, the idea is we put a DNA in a container, a special container. And then the idea was to try to increase the electrical conductivity because there was a research done at UC Irvine, I believe, yeah, UC Irvine, that when you increase the electrical conductivity, basically the electricity going through the DNA, it changes shape. It changes from a double helix to a torus, and it starts to self-repair. So it's a very, very powerful. At the time, I had no idea what it did. My intention was, okay, I'm just going to increase the electrical conductivity of this thing, right? So I worked with Glenn Ryan at the time. And, we create a baseline, meaning you measure the thing over a period of time. And then I look at this thing and boom, I'm telling you, it just shot up 400%. It was so mind blowing that we're like, well, let's do it again because it's like, all right, that's pretty cool. And it kept doing it over and over and over. We did another time. And don't forget, some of these experiments in the movie, I mean, this is live on camera, and you have all these like equipment, electromagnetic stuff flying all over the place. And we still could manifest the result in the movie. I think it shot up 200%. I'm not sure. So that was the most mind blowing because he couldn't believe it. He was like, that's a lot. That's like, and I barely looked at it. I'm talking seconds. So that was very, very intriguing. Like, how could this happen? Um, Another thing I did was long distance. I was working with, oh gosh, what's her name? Oh, it's a team. They were in San Francisco and I was in Los Angeles. And they had a whole set of devices like thermal equipment, electronic, electrical, like all kinds of things. And the idea was, can I change like, can I affect them? Could they do like something crazy if I'm focused on them? And that was another thing. We had never done anything long distance. And that too, I remember they also actually wrote a report, a scientific paper on this, a report. And it showed the correlation exactly at the time that I'm focused on these things, the stuff starts to go crazy. And then when you stop looking, it just so these are like incredible experiences I've had with the scientists. That these are the first two things that I can think of.
And
But of course, yeah, go ahead.
no, is that just with you? Because I know obviously you've been like, because you were talking about what happened to you when you were 5 and then setting your intention. You've been doing this is a long time. Is it just with you, or were they doing it with other people and it's still the same effect?
It's absolutely not just me. I want to say maybe mine could be, or also we did telekinesis, meaning moving an object at a distance in a Faraday cage. That's insane. But I want to say maybe I can do it faster, more precise, just because I train myself. And then other people just know how. But that's what I also love about the movie Superhuman. Everybody should watch that film. It's so empowering. Is the idea that anybody, like we come in doing this, like we come in with this ability, and it's matter of tapping into it and understanding this, and letting go of the subconscious stuff. Like, I can't do this. She's gifted. I'm not, all of that stuff. So, absolutely.
And have you, in your experience through this work, have you miraculously removed anything like physically, any form of transformation that you've seen as your reality?
Yeah, yeah. I just want to add one more thing on the other stuff. It's about for what we're talking about the experiments that other people, for example, I could teach you remote viewing in like 2 hours, you know so you it's and then we did in the film, we taught this girl telekinesis. So she was trying to move an object, with her hand. If you recall, she had never done anything in her life. She had no idea. Of course, she was open, obviously. And what was fascinating was she didn't have a technique, because I mean, we just told her, look, just focus this way, just blah, blah, and let's just see what happens. She didn't really have a full training of any kind. And all she did was like nothing was happening, nothing was happening, nothing. And all of a sudden, she said she was trying to move a piece of paper. And all of a sudden, she started talking to it and saying, well, I'm going to give you a name and I'm going to, we're going to play a game or whatever. She started to make up all this stuff. And the second she said, well, I love you, whatever. And that thing started to turn. It was insane. Yeah. So it's just so fun to discover like your own ability. Anybody can do that with very little training. And of course, you get better as you So, but the other question, sorry, you just asked was,
Or any of your
oh, my personal.
experiences? Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's all like smaller stuff, like sometimes I feel like a flu coming on or something, or something, and then I shift it. I remember one very, very dramatic one, but that was way earlier, was I mean, that was in the beginning, like when I first started out, and I had this horrific flu of some kind. And then I just did whatever. And it was like a faucet. You're just like, like all the symptoms were gone. Like, like, like instantly. That was insane. But I think this was one of the earlier one on purpose. I think I had that experience to understand what's possible. Now it's more like a little bit more gradual. So instead of a flu or whatever cold for 7 days, it's like maybe 24 hours. And even you have 100 fever, 105, it's gone in 20. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
so it's more of a natural process, but it's ongoing.
Yeah, I love it. So before we go to our three shiny golden nuggets, there's two things I want to check out is what's behind you that's glowing on the
Oh yeah. So this is a scalar wave device, and I just put a crystal there, and so it's like light photons and scalar wave that's dispensed through like a scalar wave energy. So yeah.
and what does it do exactly? Is that to clear the eons or what is it actually doing as your
Yeah, first of all, it clears the EMF because it neutralizes the EMF, but also it kind of keeps your energy basically. Scalar waves mean it's going to keep it like a torus, it's going to keep it in this alignment or vibration. And this goes pretty far, actually. This one has a range, like maybe the whole house, I think. So it's pretty powerful, like right here. But I've experimented with different ones, and this one was my favorite.
and
So
would it be okay for me to ask what's who makes it?
yeah, I can't remember.
Oh,
I
it's okay.
think uh, I can't remember. I have to. Can I look
Yeah.
it up and
Yeah,
send
of
it to
course.
you?
That would be great.
Yeah, because I've had this for a couple of years and I can't remember the exact
That's
name. Sorry.
okay. That's okay. And then the last thing before our three shiny golden nuggets, were your two watches that you were going to tell us about.
Yes. So what happened is in Superhuman 2, I started exploring and experimenting with frequency devices. Like, so when I do a meditation, so you are receiving my frequency through my voice, through the recorder, right? Through the whatever, through speakers and stuff. So I thought, what if I can deliver the same thing, but through light? So I found these people so you can see the red light.
Yes.
And so they already had a program, I think for Lyme, because the original person who created this, the technology, I think their son had Lyme or something like that, and it was very effective. So I investigated and I looked at their company and I spoke with them, and then I said, is it possible for me to do like a white label where it's my energy or whatever, my frequency delivered through light? And so I sent them one recording, which is my favorite meditation, which everybody should do it. It's free on my website, connecting to source, connecting to source. It's that frequency that gets you right there, you know? And so I sent them that meditation and they tested it on people and it was like, off the chart. So they said, yeah, we would love to work with you. So this watch, I called it Superhuman Watch. And it has a set of frequencies, like, for example, and it's all my work basically. So I have, for example, abundant connecting to source, abundance, energetic cleanse, like I take out all kinds of stuff, higher guidance to open up, inner mental clarity. It has inner peace, if you have anxiety or whatever. So, and it's all frequencies, and you select the program and you click on it, and it just delivers that frequency like throughout the day. So the difference also is that it's very subtle. It's not like you don't get zapped or anything. It's just this subtle energy that keeps coming through you. So you do the meditation in the morning and then you go out during the day, and there's all kinds of, so this kind of keeps you in that space depending on the program, obviously. And people are loving it. So if people want to try that out, it's at superhumanwatch.com.
Excellent. We'll have that in the show notes. Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
Caroline, sorry. Okay, so as we wrap up, we always love to ask our guests to share three shiny gold nuggets. So what would be those three practical exercises or tips that you would like to leave for our audience today?
Yeah, I think the first one would be the connecting to source. So if remember my story at the age of 5 or that whole thing, it's what happened was it's that I was connected to that frequency. It's that this one frequency that I call source that kind of gets you to this place where you become who you really are. You know what I mean? And it brings a lot of alignment very quickly. And people have to try it. So it's free of charge. People can go to my YouTube channel. I have a lot of stuff on my YouTube as well. They can go on YouTube or on my website and just do the connecting to source. If people do this in the morning, 7 minutes, only 7 minutes long, or at night, I recommend also you do that at night before you go to sleep. It just keeps you in this beautiful alignment. It helps you set your intention. So I recommend that, everybody does that. The second thing, I can't remember. The second thing is how to keep your energy clear, because that's another thing. You prepare yourself in the morning and then you go out and you're bombarded, with people and crowds and cars and everything else. And you have a lot of things latching onto you. So this is very, very common. Everybody has a few attachments and they contribute to sickness. I mean, cancer and all these are all very hard attachments. And the same thing, this is a meditation that people can just download from, I think, YouTube. It's called Energetic Cleanse. And this watch also has the Energetic Cleanse one as well. It's targeting specific things latching onto you. Makes sense? And then I think the next thing, once you are aligned, once you clear your energy, then you want to receive the guidance. What is my work today? What am I here to do? How do I move forward on my path? And that guidance, again, it's a bit of a process, but once you nail it, you can use it every day. And that's the class that I mentioned, the series that's on my website. Um, um, it's mastering your guidance system. And I think the first class is free. So
Thank you.
people can look that up.
Wow, that's excellent. Caroline, I've also just noticed that I've kept you a little bit longer than expected because
Yeah.
I got caught in your stories. It was amazing. I want to say thank you for your time, your energy, and your wealth of wisdom. I can't wait to check out what you do. I'm really curious about everything that you do. So everyone, check out the movies. We'll have everything in the show notes. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you.